Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. David Wolf here. Tonight we're going to be working with international foods. We're going to work on some various items. It's very plant-centric. It's not vegan, but it has a lot of great plant-based vegetable product that are going to be in the recipes this evening. So I'm going to start with the couscous salad. And for that, I've got some vegetable stock. It's got about 9 different vegetables, which include most of the white mirepoix, which would be leeks and fennel and onion, celery. It has a little bit of carrot. It has a very small amount of tomato product from some fresh tomatoes. And I typically will make a vegetable stock so that it has a nice, good nose on it and some good flavor. To that vegetable stock, I'm going to salt it a bit so that it has some pronounced flavor. And I'm going to mill in some pepper. You can use either white pepper, black pepper, doesn't really matter, whatever your preference or what you have at home is. As soon as you're able to get the vegetable stock up to a boil, we're going to move into adding the couscous. While that's boiling, you're going to take a look at these trays that I have set up. And what I have is all the ingredients broken out from that kit that you have in various sections. So from the kit for the couscous salad, I put everything that I needed related to cooking the couscous, and it's going to be folded into the couscous on one tray, everything for the vinaigrette on a separate tray. And then I have the items for the hummus and the pita on a tray, which includes the olive oil, the cumin, the olive oil, the spice, and the little parsley, along with the hummus. And then I have the ingredients for the falafel, all in one section, and then the accoutrements and the vegetables, the accent garnishes that go with the falafel on a separate tray, so that they're very easy to work with. It's very organized, and it makes for a very smooth workflow in the kitchen. So that's what we're planning to do this evening. So now that the couscous vegetable stock has come to a boil, I'm simply going to add the couscous to that. And for that, we're simply going to just gently stir it, bring it back to a boil, and allow that to slow, very low simmer that couscous. It won't take long. Once it simmers for about 2 minutes, you can pretty much turn that heat off completely, and what's going to happen is that durum semolina flour that we make the couscous from, very tiny little pearls, Israeli-style couscous, are going to absorb that stock. Don't overcook it. It can go from one way of one proper cooking method to overcooked. It's going to stick to the bottom of the pan. You want to try and avoid that. So we reduce the heat a bit to allow that to be under control. Now let's move on to the falafel. For the falafel, you have the mix that we pre-made, because there's a lot of ingredients, a little bit difficult to do at home, but the recipe's there in the event that you wanted to try and reproduce that falafel with chickpeas at your home. So for that, I have the chickpea falafel mix. I have a measure of safflower oil that we provided to you in your kit. We're going to bring that to almost a smoking point, but not quite. And then we're going to take the measure of flour on the provided parchment paper that you have, and we're going to scoop out the portions. You can do these portions by hand if you want, or you can use a little ice cream disher, whatever's going to work best for you to have some portion control on those so that they fit inside the naan bread is really the objective here. It doesn't matter what size they are. You could make 3 or 4 really big ones, or you could make little tiny ones if you like. A lot of the food trucks that I've seen out in LA and some other areas across the country, New York City, have very small falafel balls that they use, and then they just drop those into a deep fat fryer to make those work out. So that's truly up to you on what the size and the shape of them are. At this point of those balls, I'm just going to kind of work them a little bit, patty them out like a very small little patty, waiting for that oil to come to the heat that we need. So I'm going to check it with a little bit of flour, and if the flour starts to show some movement, then I know that I've got the right temperature in the skillet. So it's pretty much there. As I drop that little flour in there, you see some activity, it starts to shake up a little bit, then we're in good shape and we can start adding the falafel patties. Treat it like a little mini burger sliders, about the size that we want those to be, and just place them in the oil carefully so you don't splash. Any size skillet works, whatever's going to fit on your stovetop. and to be able to hold all the falafel in one time. You can do them in batches if you wanted to. This stuff will hold up for a couple of days if you only wanted to make a couple of them today for tonight's meal and save some for another day. Feel free to do so. You'll have about 5 days shelf life on the falafel mix that you have in your kit, so it's up to you. Make a couple of really cool meals out of it at your leisure, so you don't have to have everything at one day. I think it's much better to prepare the falafel right before you eat it, to have these falafels cooked and then refrigerated and then brought back to life in a microwave oven. They're just not the same. They just don't have the same flavors. The texture changes on the crispness of the outside, and the dynamics are a lot different. So that's what we're doing with the falafel. So that's our first step in getting those cooked. Couscous is underway. We're going to move on to preparing the vinaigrette. So for the vinaigrette, we've got this nice arrangement of ingredients for that. If you had a blender at home, if you have a blender at home, feel free to put this in a blender and get this made very simply with that blender. So we're going to start in a bowl and using a whisk for those of us who don't have blenders at home. And we're going to start with the mustard. You have a nice creamy Dijon mustard in the kit. We're going to put that in the base of the bowl, followed by honey. Honey and the mustard are emulsifiers, which are going to allow that vinaigrette to be able to hold shape and to be an emulsion is what we're looking for. You've got a large measure of garlic on your tray. Save about 2/3 of that garlic for another use. You don't need all that tonight. It's pretty excessive if you ask me. A little bit of Spanish paprika to give it some color and flavor. And then you have a lemon in your kits, but you're going to use the zest on the outside of the lemon. So hopefully you have a microplane or a grater of some sort at home. I just like the microplane. It's wonderful to use for zesting fruits like oranges, lemons, limes, any type of citrus. It's perfect for doing a fine grate of Parmesan cheese or Pecorino Romano when you grate that right over a pasta. It's absolutely delightful. It gives you a delicious flavor and really lifts up the flavor of a dish. So we're using the zest of the lemon, and we're also going to use the juice of the lemon. I have juiced the lemon in advance just to be able to move this video along a little bit more expeditiously. So once we have those items put together, we're going to just whisk those vigorously in a bowl, and then we're slowly going to add in the oil, the measure that's in your kit. For the oil, it's a 50-50 blend of olive oil and canola oil. And that, I think, is important to note that you put that in there very slowly so that you can build that emulsion. Kind of a whisking method. Just keep it moving the whole time that you're adding the oil. If you have a blender, everything that went in there first can go in the blender and puree it, and then simply pour in the oil while it's running to have this nice, smooth, creamy vinaigrette. It's going to be what I considered a lemon honey Dijon vinaigrette. Outstanding, delightful, not just for the couscous salad this evening, but for many other applications. To put it on lettuce, either baby greens or some crispy kale, whatever you choose to have as far as your lettuces that you like at home. So the vinaigrette's pulling together. It's got a nice beige color to it. There's a pretty good look in the finished product. And the reason why we have the mustard and honey is to be able to get it that smooth, creamy consistency is what we're looking for. So whisk it vigorously and continuously until all of that oil is incorporated into the bowl to be able to meet that guideline. All right, so we've got that under control. We're going to look at the falafels. Once they start to brown on one side, give them a flip. And you can tell they start to brown as they'll start to crack on top, kind of like a cookie would do if it was being baked under too high a heat. But just to see that they're nice and crispy on the bottom, we're going to repeat the same process on the other side so that they're both crispy on both sides, and we're going to reduce the heat on that oil just briefly to be able to allow that to not overcook. I'm going to take a quick look at the couscous and see if all of the stock has been absorbed. And it looks like all the stock's absorbed. We're going to cross-check that with a spatula. It looks wonderful. No liquid appears remaining behind, so that worked out quite well. Very quick at that. And so I have a tray that we're going to use to be able to allow that to cool down and cool down that. We're going to cool down that couscous on any tray that you have it at the home or any plate that you have, just to allow that couscous to not be so hot when we blend in the vegetables. It can be warm, because I think the warmth of the couscous will allow us the opportunity to warm up the little diced vegetables that came in the kit. So I'm going to give that a few minutes to evaporate some of the steam that's on there and set that off to the side and come back to it here briefly. All right, so we'll come right back to that. Meanwhile, we're going to want to set up the pitas so that they're in a good place to be grilled on a charcoal grill, or you can feel free to do those in the oven under a broiler, a low broil or a high broil, whichever means you have at your homes. Today I've got a charcoal grill, or just a grill over here at my disposal in the instructional kitchen, and that is what I'm going to use tonight. So for that, I'm going to use just a little bit of oil on each of the pitas, just to be able to drizzle the oil on there. And the process behind that is so that I can get the spices to stick. I have like a Pita Spice that we made. It's going to be delicious. It's got pretty much the za'atar spices that one might like in the Middle East. It has sumac and marjoram, oregano, some cumin, and some coriander all involved in the spice mix, all nicely ground. Rub that nicely and evenly. A little bit of oil on both sides. You can reserve a little bit of that oil to put on top of your hummus if you like oil on top of the hummus. But basically, you've got enough of the spice rub there to be able to make these pitas flavorful and delightful. Again, the broiler, an oven, or you can simply just put them into a skillet. Either way you want to work those out is quite fine based on what you have to work with at home. The falafel, nice and cooked on both sides. They both have good color on both sides. At this point, we're going to take them out of the skillet and put them on a paper-lined tray to be able to absorb any residual fat from the cooking, which is the safflower oil, off onto that paper. We turn off the heat in the skillet, and then you have these falafels that are pretty much ready to go to build the sandwich product. All right. So we have quite a few accoutrements that go with that falafel that are at your disposal. And I think to be able to build the falafel, it's ideal to have these falafels warmed up just briefly. Again, you can just put them in the oven. Feel free to microwave them. You could even use a little bit of the oil that you have in your kit to be able to spice rub the naan breads a little bit before they get folded. It's truly up to you on how you want to put those together this evening. So I have all the ingredients that I need for the falafel sitting here. The accoutrements, which is the shredded lettuce and sliced tomato, sliced cucumber, some pickled red onion, and some sour cream. All right, so those are all set and ready to go. Let's take a look at the couscous. It has cooled down enough that we can put it into the bowl and compose that dish. I like to keep that just warm, pretty much room temperature, so some of the starches are still there on the couscous, so it remains a little bit tacky. So to that, we are going to add the vegetables. I just took the collection of the vegetables that were diced up and put them in one container. Those are going to go into the couscous in a bowl, and I'm simply just going to toss those around. We salted and peppered the vegetable stock just briefly, but I do think this salad is going to need a little bit more salt and pepper because we didn't salt and pepper the vinaigrette. I just think that that's going to give it a lift of flavor. So feel free to season that salt and pepper to taste based on your personal preferences. as a family. So to this, we're going to add just enough of the vinaigrette to be able to give it a little dressing. Or any remaining dressing that you have on this vinaigrette this evening, feel free to hold on to that for a future opportunity. Like I mentioned, putting it on some lettuce greens for a meal that you might like to have at home. So that's it on the couscous salad. We'll give it a little taste to make sure the seasoning balance is correct. And really all we need to look at is the salt and pepper to see if it's up to date. Wonderful. What I like about that is the bright flavor from the lemon. It really holds true and it holds through very nicely. The naan bread's warmed up just a bit. Pitas are warming up. You can work those on the grill if you want. Today's a nice day outside, but I'm not sure if it stopped raining or if it rained at all because I'm not in a position to see what weather's like out there. But we're going to put together the falafel, and for that, basically I'm going to build those with the breads that have been warmed up just briefly, and for that you have on your tray the hummus. And so with the hummus, I'm going to use a little bit of hummus as a spread on the naan bread. I'm going to put a little bit of lettuce on each side, a slice or two of tomato, and then a slice or two of cucumber. For these falafel, a little bit of pickled onion. You can put 1 or 2 falafel on there based on your preference. Simply fold that together to make this nice little falafel sandwich, something similar to what you might see on a food truck in a more metropolis area here in the States. So hummus yes or hummus no is really your call. I think it's a nice adhesive spread to help hold all these ingredients together on the little sandwich. Tomatoes yes, tomatoes no, really depends on your preference on any of these items. Sour cream is there for you to be able to put on the side if you so choose to. It's really up to you on how many of these falafel you put on the sandwich. It's up to you on a lot of those things. Is in your court, whatever works out best for you. So those are the falafel. We'll come back and take a look at those in a moment. Sour cream you could put on there if you wanted to. It's a nice little packet. Some people do, some people don't. Just depends on whether or not you want dairy added to this dish. So if I did, I would just simply squeeze it right out of there and make that a very nice addition to the meal. So for the couscous, we've got that prepared in good shape. I'm just going to put it into a bowl this evening, a little soup cup. It's for service. You can put it in a flat bowl, any kind of service dish that you may have at home. It's going to work out well. Whatever works best for you. I think it's very bright and colorful. It's got a really nice mix of vegetables consisting of red and yellow bell pepper. It's got some diced cucumber. All really nice, beautiful vegetables, very good and good for us. That cucumber gives it a nice, bright flavor, which I think is absolutely delightful. So the pitas are crisping up just a bit. On top of this, I have some olives that we have put in your kit. You can either blend in to the couscous salad if you like, or you can simply drop them on top. Some folks like to put those olives on top of the couscous, some don't. Feta cheese is a nice addition to add either in the couscous salad or just to accent and garnish on top. It's up to you. I think that that's a preference. To me, putting that feta cheese on the inside can make that couscous salad look a little bit off cue. It doesn't look as appetizing as it would be if it was set up on top. So I think that makes a difference on that. So for our couscous, nicely done with the feta cheese and the olives on top, a little accent of parsley that we have. The presentation of the falafel is there. It's absolutely beautiful. For the hummus, I've just taken it from the container. Now the hummus recipe that you've got is very nice for you to make at home. I just don't know that everybody has a blender at home. So we opted to make the hummus in advance so that all you had to do is just work the pita to make that work. So I have that wonderful hummus. It's really delightful in flavor. What I like about that hummus, it has the flavors of tahini and roasted garlic. I like the flavor of roasted garlic better than fresh garlic because it softens it up. It's not as bitter as fresh garlic can be, and it just gives it a nice mellow, kind of a warm flavor. So I'm just taking those pita breads, cutting them into eighths, and then we're just going to simply line those up around the hummus so that we can have that as a nice little dip for the hummus itself. So that is our menu for this evening. 3 international plant-based dishes. We have the hummus with the grilled pitas with the Pita Spice. We have the wonderful couscous salad embellished with both of the peppers, the red onion, and the great flavors of the nice cow's milk, feta cheese, a little bit of parsley, and some Mediterranean olives. And then here you have your falafel with sour cream, without sour cream. So it's up to you on what you want to prepare, how you want to serve those dishes. But that is our menu for this evening. Hopefully you enjoy it, and have a good evening. We'll see you later.